Hello, everyone. Welcome back to XVC Tech Insights, powered by XVC Tech, a 125 million Web3 VC arm by the co founders of XDC Network. Every week, we try to get you successful founders, top tier VCs, and amazing companies to tell you everything about Web3, its current trends, and what's happening in the industry today. I'm your host, Aneri Merchant, and today we are going deep, like ocean deep, into one of the most inspiring ReFi, DePIN, and RWA projects out there, the BigWater protocol, now live on XDC Network. Today's episode is dripping with impact, literally. We are going to dive deep into the story behind BigWater Protocol, a Web3 powered movement that's turning clean air and clean water into something you can earn from. Yes, you heard it right. It's not just about saving the planet anymore, but it's about creating a new kind of climate economy, the one powered by a global community. So, without much ado, let me welcome the man behind BigWater Protocol, Dr. Parag Agarwal. Welcome, Dr. Parag Agarwal. It's a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So, before we dive deep into more about BigWater Protocol, it would be amazing if you could give an introduction to our audience about who you are, your experience, and what prompted you to start BigWater.
Yeah, thank you. And that's where the story actually started. And it's very important for everyone to understand that we didn't just jump into the water. We've remained in water and remained underwater for a long, long time to be able to get here. I personally, I've been an entrepreneur for over 3 decades now. I'm just wired that way in my head. Um, have built initiatives, have evangelized technologies, identified technologies ahead of their times, and I have actually been a specialist in terms of implementing them on ground by shaping policy, by aligning it with policy, by aligning it with the needs, the applications on ground, and then basically, driving it to a critical mass, and then beyond that. And that's where the genesis of BigWater really lies. So a lot of people ask, how much time did it take you to build this initiative? And I say 35 years, because that is the kind of cumulative experience, expertise, learnings, and capabilities, abilities that we've infused into this initiative so as to give it the real meaning and the depth that it deserves.
That's amazing. It's like what people say, an entrepreneur is, and being an entrepreneur is an ever learning process, right? Every day you are challenged with something new. Every day you learn so much things. You learn from your failures. You try something new. You pivot. So it's a lifelong learning process, similar to what you just mentioned. A very small journey of 3.5 decades long. So let's start from the source, right? There are a lot of, I would say, ReFi and deepening projects that promise sustainability, but very few of them go beyond the carbon credits or hype fueled NFTs. But Big Water feels different. It's grounded, it's physical, and it's already creating a lot of tangible change. So I'm curious to understand what is the core problem that you saw in the industry that prompted you to start Big Water, and how is it different from the other ReFi and deepen protocols that are already out there?
So I think every protocol has their own core and their own vision and mission, and they've crafted it that way. But as we see ReFi, as we see sustainability impact, we believe, when I say we, I mean me, and where I come from, my brand, or my let's call it horses from my stable. We believe that impact cannot be virtual. So you cannot just create a virtual digital initiative and expect to pull it off under, let's call it, the guise of being a ReFi or a sustainable or an impactful initiative. As far as Big Water is concerned, we call this a Phygital intervention, a Phygital project, simply because it's a combination of physical and digital. So we are coming into the digital world. We are to basically extend participation, enable participation by people who can participate in this ecosystem globally through local actions and create global impact. And so this is a there is a very bottom up approach taken to basically conceptualize this entire operating model. And coming back to the name big water, a lot of people question why big water, is because that is the end game as far as we are concerned. That is who we are, that is where we come from. There is a legacy company that is supporting this initiative, at its core, and enabling clean water access to more and more underserved communities globally in the real world. So, when we say enabling clean water access, it's not just by giving them a digital certificate or digital instrument in their hand. It's about putting water physically in their hands that they can actually live off on a daily basis. So, fulfilling that need on the ground, and at the same time fulfilling the need of the Web3 community, or the Web3 degen, as one would call, is also important. So what we've done is we've struck that balance and created this entire model.
That's a very powerful way to actually describe the decentralized climate action along with powering a global community. So that's some real good work that you're doing. Kudos to you. So, how does Big Water's integration of clean air and clean water turn sustainability into something people can earn from daily?
So that's a very interesting question, and it's very important to highlight this aspect as to how have we created this clean air, clean water model? How are we bringing that on blockchain? How are we bringing it into Web3? And how is this entire structure functioning, and rather coexisting? So, Big Water Protocol is a DePIN initiative, and our DePIN devices, as a refreshing change, are air purifiers, smart air purifiers. So for once, the what we realized was, when we did a comp table of the other similar initiatives out there in the deep in space, we realized that everybody has a piece of hardware, but the hardware doesn't really add value to the lives of the users in a direct manner. So it is there, it is in doing what it is intended to do, but there is no primary gain that they are getting out of it or benefit. This is where we thought, and given the impact mindset and coming from impact, we thought that it's important for that to add value, and we created these air purifiers that now at the basic level give clean air to the user. So that one major problem that the bulk of the world is faced with is being addressed or solved in its own micro manner. At the same time, what we do is we're giving them an NFT that is a water credit, wherein they have enabled 1,000 liters of clean water for underserved communities somewhere else in the world. And not only have we done that, or are we doing that, but we are actually fulfilling that water delivery, bringing that data on chain and tying that data to that NFT. So every NFT is verified and is authenticated with proof of delivery of that water, along with the KYC of the consumers as well. And this is something that comes from the legacy company that is that was also founded by me 12 years ago and has already been practicing DePIN. So we're actually called the OGs of DePIN because we've been practicing DePIN for over 10 years now. It's just that the Web3 world has now discovered this in the last couple of years in its pursuit for real world use cases.
Yeah.
So that's how we're, on one side, we're delivering clean air. On the other side, we're delivering clean water. And the best part of the entire initiative is, as you operate your air purifier, you earn daily rewards, because what you're doing is you're conducting a sustainable action. So that is the reward for the sustainable action. So I have to say this. Finally, an air purifier is not an expenditure. It is an investment.
Right. So this is where it actually gets exciting, right? I mean, clean water meeting clean air, and along with earning rewards for actually making your air purify much better at home office or probably wherever you are. So your company is very different from the others that operate in the Web3 space, which is pretty much built up on hype, likes, hashtags, everything that surrounds that. But this one is actually something that's creating a real world impact, something that's measurable as well as traceable on the blockchain. So this is amazing. So during a conversation before, you had mentioned that you're shipping these smart air purifiers to 65 countries across 6 continents. And this is something that's probably unheard of in the Web3 world, where a project could have such a massive impact across so many continents. So I assume that, shipping to so many countries means that you've onboarded users at an insane pace. As well as during our conversation, you also mentioned that these air purifiers were actually purifying around 2 million liters of air a day. So, this is amazing. I really want to know more about while Web3 actually struggles to cross one region. You've crossed 6 continents. So, how has the progress been? How are you managing so much? And what is your vision for this particular company?
Yeah, that's a heavily loaded question, but I'm going to try and answer every piece of that. Um, for us, the vision or the mission is, act local, benefit global. That is what is really the core intention behind this. As far as having this global outreach, I mean, having a piece of hardware that is shipped to various countries is, I think, integral to what we do, because we have got to understand 4.4 billion people lack access to clean water. Perhaps 80% of the world, if not 90, is suffering from pollution and contaminated air. Now, when we are trying to solve global problems, we need to have a global opportunity. We need to create a global opportunity for people to participate and make a difference. There is no point in doing something in a silo in one corner, and there's nothing wrong in that. But then it does not have that impact at scale. And it's very important to basically keep an eye on that aspect, which is where we conceptualize this with that mindset.
I think what you just mentioned, it rings a bell. I had read an article a couple of months ago which said that basically in India, having clean water is going to be a challenge by 2030. So this is something that is pretty relevant to what you're doing, and I think by 2030 this is going to create a massive impact because again we would need that kind of water.
It's a great point. It's you've kind of hit a chord with me right now, which I have to now amplify. You said in India, clean water access will basically deplete
Deplete.
as we go towards 2030. Let me kind of correct that a little bit. Water access will deplete by 2030. It is very important to understand that water and clean water are absolutely independent of each other. They're as different as chalk is from cheese. So, when do we ever hear that people are dying due to drought conditions? We don't really hear of that. So, there is water everywhere. The problem is it is not potable, it is not clean. It is so waterborne diseases is actually the biggest killer as far as mortality is concerned in the world. And that is the real difference. So, in all honesty, a lot of the emerging markets in the world, developing or underdeveloped countries, are already faced with the challenge of lack of clean water access. The UN's report says 4.4 billion people lack it. I mean, I'd like to believe 6 billion lack it. And those who are even getting it are basically in a better position in terms of where they are in their life to be able to afford expensive packaged water, which is why they don't feel that gap. They don't even realize that there is a gap. So for the longest, I have to say this, for the longest, I have said that bad air and bad water, between the two, bad water is a poor man's problem, because they're the ones who struggle to get clean water every day. But bad air is a rich man's problem, because nobody's spared from it.
And you're solving both of
And we are trying to solve both of them. And we are actually giving people an opportunity to come in, serve themselves, meet their own needs primarily, but at the same, so there is a primary, there's a secondary, and there's a tertiary benefit that is embedded into this initiative. So I get told for the longest, and as recent as last evening on a call, I was told that, look, the Web3 space doesn't care for impact. People just want to make money. And I say, and to be fair, that's a fair, that's a decent goal to have, objective to have. But I think the moment you look a little beyond that, we're not cannibalizing your need to make money. What we are saying here is an initiative which is a fresh of breath air, which is a breath of fresh air in so many ways, that allows you to the opportunity of fulfilling that need to make money and yet also make impact. And then you will have that impact transparently made available to you in terms of visibility. So you will know exactly what is the impact you've caused. So in a world where we've all come from this corporate world of earning per share.
Yeah.
We are now in this era of Bitcoin per share in companies.
Now we'll be
We are now talking about impact per token
per token.
or impact per share. And that is also and that is already established under the CSR and the ESG initiatives or in ESG formats and frameworks that governments of the world have prescribed. So there's a very large vision within which there is this mission that is intended to check a lot of boxes at the same time and in tandem.
That's very interesting because when we were in school, we were always taught save water means saving the planet.
Correct.
And at that point of time, it did not strike that it would have such an impact, say 2-3 decades from now. But now when we are actually seeing the repercussions, we are actually seeing that water, as you said, is going to be a scarce resource in the coming few decades, or no, probably not even that. It's something that we need to work on and probably create
Oh,
and
absolutely.
change our habits, change how we perceive that we have unlimited supply of water. We can keep it open as when we want.
Absolutely, Riri. In fact, let me tell you, how many of us even realize that the pair of jeans we wear has a water footprint of 10,000 liters? The shirt or the t-shirt we wear has 4,000 liters. The cup of coffee, a lipstick, cosmetics, a watch, everything has a water footprint. So while the world has been looking at carbon credits and the carbon footprint and measuring that, what are they doing? They're levying 25p on a plastic bag
Yeah,
in a supermarket. That is not the way you solve it, because you're actually giving a paper bag that has come from cutting a tree somewhere
right.
in the world. So was that the right thing to do? So just solving. So there's a very interesting statement by the UN General Secretary recently that says, and she said, water is the biggest victim of climate change, and therein lies also the greatest solution.
Mm.
It is the first victim of climate change. So simply solving the carbon problem is not going to really solve climate change entirely. This has got to be understood, and this is why we're making this effort to try and let's call it kill two birds with one stone.
That's really good. You just mentioned about carbon credits, which takes me to my next question about India introducing the Net Zero 2070
Absolutely.
initiative, and that's something that BigWater is actually a part of. And it's not just about buzzwords anymore, but it is also creating an impact, a measurable impact. Say creating a greener planet or probably a greener India for Net Zero 2070 initiative. So tell me, what is BigWater doing? How is it working with the government? How is it going to create an impact? And yeah, I just want to know more about it.
So I think more than working with the government, we work in conjunction with government's vision, missions, and policies. And because therein lies scale, therein lies adequate traction in terms of staying aligned, in terms of even meeting the expectations of citizens and of the community. So coming to the net zero commitment by 2070, that was a commitment that India made at COP26 in Glasgow back in 2021, where by 2070 India would turn net zero. So to address that and in line with that, what India has done is created the green credits, where they're now encouraging corporates to offset their emissions by planting trees. And these trees are being geotagged. So the central government is basically encouraging this. It is devolved upon the states to basically motivate citizens to conduct a voluntary action and do this. There are similar initiatives across Africa, across South America, across Southeast Asia. So this is happening in its own way and very rapidly is spreading across the world. What we are doing is we are simply incentivizing individuals, corporates, foundations, and even government departments through water credits, that if you do one good action, you're also inadvertently doing another good action, and both of them put together have a compounded and a cumulative effect on the impact that you're delivering. And I have to also mention that we have a scientific way to measure the impact as per key select metrics, and that is a report that we will be publishing regularly on our website and on our socials. So it's very important, because what we've managed to do over the last 10, 12 years is uh, quantify the value of the impact that we are delivering through the projects that we are performing. So it's one thing to say, I'm creating huge impact. It's another to say that I am creating impact worth $1 million a month. And how is that $1 million ascertained? There is a scientific way to get to that. And we have an auditor company that's going to actually help us oversee all our work, gather all the metrics, assess and analyze all the data, and then quantify that. So it's going to be a very, very interesting, very, very eye-opening kind of an experience for even the Web3 communities that are perhaps not used to such, let's call it, serious initiatives in terms of, I mean, in a world which thrives on meme coins and on other kind of coins and, the proverbial pump. But we are now talking about, something that is really tethered to the ground and will continue to make a difference.
That's interesting. So, from what you say, I gather that BigWater aims to be probably the largest decentralized platform for individual climate action.
That is right. Decentralized is the key word here.
Yes.
The power of decentralization is what we are really bringing to the fore, and putting, empowering people, individuals, to basically take impact into their own hands. We cannot be waiting for governments to clean our air. We cannot be waiting for governments to deliver clean water on our taps. While that is a primary obligation on the other side, but should we be waiting for it? So so that is the question that we are asking, and we are saying here is how you can make the difference.
Got it.
So this is the action that you can do. Small actions that create giant ripples.
Baby steps to success.
Baby steps, but giant strides.
That's true. So we've talked about your long-term vision for BigWater, but tell me, what do you or where do you see BigWater by the end of 2025? What are your initiatives? What is coming up? What's exciting that our audience should know?
So I think the one thing the audience must know is that the BigWater is a token that we are actually listing for now on 2 exchanges on the 1st of August. So that is the real enabler. That is the real instrument or the tool for participation. So this is where people can come in and support this, buy into the token. The token enables all of this on the ground. They're also welcome to come in and buy the devices and operate the devices, which will earn them tokens as they operate that device, as I said earlier. Those foundations, those organizations, corporations that are undertaking large afforestation projects or plantations are welcome to talk to us, and we can actually create an incentive program that will actually create a circularity in revenue generation for them. As far as going forward is concerned, I mean, we look at onboarding millions of users, more from the Web 2 and bringing them into Web 3, simply because we're trying to simplify and to remove the complexity of Web 3 in people's minds so that they can segue into Web 3 intentionally or unintentionally, but in both cases benefit from the rewards of from the fruit of what Web3 can actually deliver to them in terms of incomes, passive income streams, benefits, returns, and all of that. So it's a very, very so just to mention here, we already have 1 million verified users on board. We are in the process of bringing on another 1 million users very soon, and maybe in 12 months from now we'll be sitting across at least sitting on the other side of 10 million verified users on board, who will be having our wallets, who will be holding tokens, who will be redeeming tokens. We're looking forward to working with XDC. Your recent integrations, the new innovative steps that you're bringing in, which we can support our redemption program, is something that we're very excited about. And I'm sure that our community is going to take to it like a duck takes to water.
I'm very excited for this particular initiative because this is something that's really going to be like an impact based project coming on XDC Network, something that is 100% traceable, transparent, and completely genuine project, I would say. So, when you say you are not just wanting to be green, but you are actually helping individuals, families contribute to the net zero goals by removing carbon in a manner and purifying how the local water supplies in real time, right? And you once said during our conversation that trees were nature's original deepen devices. And this is something that has really struck with me. And it kind of hit hard because it's such a beautiful reminder that decentralization isn't a new thing. It is something that has always existed. It's something that's deeply human and it's very, very ancient, right? So, I mean, just having a layer of Web3 and calling it decentralized is something that we've known. But how do you see Web3 reviving ancient wisdom and accelerating that to modern climate action?
It's just about looking beyond. I mean, the way I see it and the way I operate is, you've got to, if you're wanting to move forward, you have to look beyond your toes. So, Web3 is construed to be all tech, hardware, flashy buzzwords and all of that. But you hit, you've hit upon a great point. Ancient wisdom, spirituality, nature. I mean, a tree was the first air purifier God gave
That
us,
ever exists?
that ever existed. And we've completely moved on from there. What are we doing? We're actually deforestation, we are doing in pursuit of urbanization under the guise of modernization to basically go forward and do, build, for example, smart cities. But let's take a step back and think about it. Can there ever be a smart city that does not have clean air and clean water? So, by cannibalizing these two aspects, how can we ever hope to have a smart city? That's actually a dumb city. So, in so many ways, because then you're suddenly going into your little silos, creating your own little, watering holes, or your pockets where you survive. But yeah, that is exactly what we are trying to do: is bring in that awareness that there's a lot more to the power of decentralization, which can actually be include the universe into this world called the metaverse,
Yeah.
or that is being called the metaverse. So I've always, again, in so many conversations, said that the BigWater protocol, the BigWater token, it stands at the intersection of the metaverse and the universe. It's intended to be the bridge between the two, connect the two, galvanize impact and action on both sides, thereby creating a compounded effect on outcomes.
Okay, so then that's a very nice way of putting it, from deepened roots to a climate powered future. And since we are talking about deepen, how can I let you go without even asking what do you think is the future of deepen? I know you're completely optimistic about it, but I would like to hear your thoughts about where do you see the deepen as a narrative in Web3 going on from here?
So I think Deepen is here to stay. And deepen initiatives are the real world use cases that the Web3 world has been pursuing for a long, long time. So while there will be Bitcoin, there will be the others, and they are there and they will survive and thrive for different reasons. But I think Deepen is going to be the fulcrum of creating revenue generating, real world impactful, having a real world presence initiatives that can actually create exponential value for Web3 users and for the Web2 users. So maybe going forward, I mean, I'm saying maybe, but I think we'd love to lead that charge at some point in time, where Deepen initiatives will start actually acquiring Web2 companies,
Yes.
Web2 real world companies that have real world infrastructure that is going a begging for lack of utilization, lack of optimization, lack of proper use of technologies. All of that can be very easily brought in by Deepen companies, Deepen initiatives, and Web3 companies for that matter. And not only because they can create exponential revenue, resources, and funds to basically revive that infrastructure and put it to the intended use, which is why they were first built. So I am personally very bullish. When I first heard of this word deepen, that's when it stuck with me, and I said, okay, this is it. We've been working on trying to create this alignment between Web 2 and Web 3 for almost 4 years now. It just didn't seem to fit because the intention was never to pivot away and launch a meme coin. It would have probably been, we would have launched 40 coins by now in 4 years had we wanted to go down that path. But the intention was always to stay tethered to the ground, create the Web3 participation, and create the straight line linkage between the two worlds so that the real world impact is established and proven. And that's where we are.
So, BigWater is not just a protocol, it is a movement for clean water, clean air, and everything in between. One that's global, tangible, and honestly long overdue in the current scenario. So, follow BigWater, follow XDC, and stay tuned for more updates on where Web3 meets real world impact. All the details to follow BigWater would be given in the caption below. And don't forget to tell us how did you like the episode. Till then, catch you next time. Stay tuned to XVC Tech Insights. Thank you so much.